In this review lesson on fractions, we're going to touch base on several things that you have learned in the past about fractions. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the video going over each of the specific skills. I'm just going to touch on them, but I want to remind you, if you need more help on these particular skills, you can always listen to the video, listen to specific parts of it several times to help you, or remember, you have the option to work with a teacher in a small group to get further help on the things that maybe you need a little bit more help remembering. So the first thing that I want to mention is reducing fractions to lowest terms. Anytime we are dealing with a fraction, we want to look at it and we want to put it into lowest terms. So for example, 3/9. In order for me to determine if this is in lowest terms, I want to find out if 3 and 9 have a common factor. In other words, is there a number that goes into both 3 and 9? And in this case, yes. I know that 3 goes into 3, and 3 also goes into 9. So to reduce to lowest terms, I divide the numerator by 3 and the denominator by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 3/9 in lowest terms is 1/3. Let's look at 6/20. I know that both of those numbers are even, so 2 goes into them for sure. So let's divide the top and the bottom by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 3 and 10 do not have any common factors, so 3/10 is in lowest terms. Anytime I'm working with fractions, I always want to check my work and I want to make sure I put my answer in lowest terms, unless I've been instructed otherwise. Adding and subtracting fractions. When we add and subtract fractions, it is important that our denominators, the number on the bottom, it is important that our denominators are the same. I cannot add or subtract fractions until I have like denominators. The way that we get a common denominator is we have to find a number that both denominators goes into. We often hear that as the least common denominator. We want to find the smallest number that both denominators have in common. I want to find the least number possible that both 5 and 8 divide into. So 5 and 8 both go into 40. That means I'm going to make two new fractions with 40 as the denominator. I ask myself, 5 times what is 40? 5 times 8 is 40. So I do the same to the numerator. I say 4 times 8 is 32. That becomes the numerator. 8 times what is 40? Well, that's times 5. I do the same to the numerator. 3 times 5 is 15. Now that I have the same denominator, I'm going to add straight across. 32 plus 15 is 47. And I keep the denominator. Remember, we never add the denominator. We just keep the common denominator. And then my answer is in lowest terms, but I might be asked to make that a mixed number. If I am asked to make a mixed number, I look at this as a division problem. Anytime you have a fraction, this bar, the fraction bar, means divide. Okay, that 47/40 literally means 47 divided by 40. So to get it into a mixed number, that's what I'm going to do. 47 divided by 40. How many times will 40 go into 47? One whole time. How many is left over? 7. And then I keep the same denominator. So 4/5 plus 3/8 is 1 and 7/40. Now let's do a subtraction problem. I'm actually going to rewrite this down below because you can't see part of the number here in the video. It's 5 and 7/8 minus 2/3. Okay, just like adding, I need a common denominator. I need to think, what's the least number that 3 and 8 both go into? Well, that's 24. So let's make two new fractions with 24 as the denominator. Okay, and I go through the same process I did when I was adding. I ask myself, 8 times what is 24? That's times 3. 3 times 7 is 21. Okay, 3 times what is 24? Well, that's 8. So 2 times 8 is 16. Now that I have a common denominator, I can subtract. 21 minus 16 is 5. Keep the denominator. And then we have a whole number of 5 minus, there's not another whole number. So we have 5 and 5/24. 5/24 is in lowest terms because there's nothing that goes into 5. It also goes into 24. So that's our final answer. Okay, multiplying and dividing fractions. Let's review that. Multiplying and dividing is very different than adding and subtracting. When we multiply and divide, we do not have to have a common denominator. Common denominators only come in play when we're adding and subtracting. When we multiply and divide, we do not need them. To multiply fractions, we simply multiply straight across. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So 1 times 5 is 5, 6 times 8 is 48. That's in lowest terms because 5 and 48 have no common factors. If I have a mixed number, like I do here, 2 and 7/8 times 1/3. If you have a mixed number, you have to change the mixed number to an improper fraction before multiplying. You can never multiply mixed numbers. So let's change this to an improper fraction. We do 2 times 8 is 16, plus 7 is 23. So we have 23/8 times 1/3. Okay, again, I did 2 times 8 is 16, plus 7 is 23. Now that we have changed to an improper fraction, multiply right across. 23 times 1 is 23. 8 times 3 is 24. 23 and 24 have no common factors, so my answer's in lowest terms. That means I'm finished. Now let's think about division. It is important to remember what I reminded you of a few minutes ago. The fraction bar means divide. Okay? So when I see the fraction 24/6, I need to keep in mind that literally means 24 divided by 6. Well, that's 4, right? 8/3. 8 divided by 3. Well, let's think about that. 8 divided by 3 doesn't come out as an even number. So we're going to take this division problem, 8 divided by 3, and we're going to do our division just simply by reducing the fraction. 8/3. I'm sorry, not reducing it, making it a mixed number. 8/3. Let's turn it into a mixed number. 3 goes into 8 2 whole times. Well, that gives me 2 left over. So 8 divided by 3 is 2/3. So remember, a fraction problem in itself is division. Top divided by bottom. Numerator divided by denominator. If I have two fractions to divide, remember, we keep the first fraction, so we keep the 7/8. We change the division sign to multiplication, and we get the reciprocal. That means we flip the second fraction upside down. So we make it 3/2. Once we have done that, once we've kept the first fraction, changed the sign, and taken the reciprocal, or flipped the second fraction, now you multiply straight across. 7 times 3 is 21. 8 times 2 is 16. That fraction is improper, so I might be asked to change it to a mixed number. If I am, 16 goes into 21 one whole time, leaving us with 5 leftovers. So we get 1 5/16. If we need to divide a mixed number, just like multiplication, we got to get rid of that mixed number first. So 1 times 5 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So we have 8/5 divided by 3/10. Now we have a division problem, so we have to change our division to multiplication. Keep the first number, change the sign, flip the fraction. Now, some of you might remember, if you get ready to multiply and you see two numbers across from each other that have a common factor, you can reduce first. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 10 twice. Now multiply. 8 times 2 is 16, 1 times 3 is 3. So 1 3/5 divided by 3/10 is 16/3, or, as a mixed number, 3 goes into 16 5 times with 1 left over. So we could say it's 5 1/3.